welcome back to Project 24 podcast. I know this one was a little bit delayed, but a lot of things, a lot of projects going on, all happening at once. But you know what? We take this one project at a time, one moment at a time, present moment. So yeah, glad to see we're back on. And yeah, we finished off with talking about spiritual body. We talked about the mental and the physical body. So the one thing that I wanted to talk about now was, how do we level out our emotional body? Oh man, it involves like emotional intelligence. Do you see people that react in emotion? The emotions drive them. It's so different from mental and physical, a tad with spiritual. But when you realize, listening to this, how they all tie together to make one complete being, right? So looking at our emotional body, I have my notebook in front of me. I have notes in front of me, all things, myself, and we all been journaling along this way. And one of the things that I thought about is, and I journaled, was, what is the emotional body? I always say, you're not just your physical body. We're a being. We have 4 bodies within us, around us: physical, spiritual, mental, and emotional. So what does the emotional body look like? And what does it represent? Well, you know what? I mean, it represents the bridge between the physical and the mental. It's where our experience of the world is synthesized and interpreted. It's how we react to things, situations, problems, issues. It has a lot to do with regulating our heart chakra. And for those who don't know chakras, we'll do a whole nother series on chakras, and I'll bring some people in for that. But it's where those feelings, the thoughts, how we feel even when we wake up, right? So when you think about, what happens if it's kind of underbalanced? Well, I mean, it's like a general lack of emotional intelligence. You have a lack of trust. A lot of insecurities roll in. You're not too empathetic. And it's always a lot of up and down roller coaster, high emotions, low emotions. And those are some that actually bounce between, I had a good day, I had a bad day, take it as it comes. We create our day. We really do. So when we look at that emotional body, it's almost like, how do we face that? You can't face it unless you recognize it. If you have some insecurities, understand it comes from a lack of trust. You're not making the right decision. You have fear. So when you're really under balance, man, there is so much fear, and every step you take, it's like you're always in a defensive posture. You don't have trust for yourself and for others. They're not there for your good intentions. So you got to be careful with what you share with them. So I want to stay right behind this wall and not share too much. That's a body that is underbalanced, emotional side. So what does it kind of look like when it's overbalanced? Okay. So if I look at notes, and I'll pull them up right here, and you're passive and then quickly aggressive. Man, I've been there. And sometimes I still catch myself doing that. So it constantly takes a lot of work to really challenge these things. You're overly anxious. You feel hopeless. You're obsessed. You're irrational. Sometimes you get extremely irritated. And this is if it's over. And sometimes, being at the gym, I can see sometimes people that struggle with weight, up, down. Sometimes they're down, sometimes they're up. And you see that. It's when they're over in their emotions, right? Because sometimes, not sometimes, most of the time, if you're fluctuating overly emotional, meaning that the emotional tank is driving you, you retain a lot of water. You really do. And you could talk to any medical professional on this. You really do. So when you look at that, how do you bring it into balance? Well, you start doing activities that release any kind of anxiety you're carrying, any kind of stress you're carrying, any kind of tension you're carrying. You know, this will create more clear, in a sense, because you're retaining water, running water. Remove the rocks so the stream can flow. And that is very, very, very important. And I'll flip to another page that I noted where it was, what does it look like when it's balanced? When you have an emotional cylinder that's balanced, you're very empathetic. There's no judgment. You could relate to others. You actually become or start rhythming into a, even if that's a word, right? Serving state. You start to serve others with no expectations with getting anything back. Okay. So I'm going to give you, but I don't want anything back. You're going through a hard time. I get it. Let me do A, B, and C for you. I don't want D, E, and F. Doesn't matter. That's where it's at. You have empathy, compassion, understanding. You can communicate. You're open. You're vulnerable. You're honest. And I think for me, I really believe and feel that the emotional body, the emotional tank, the emotional cylinder is where a lot of folks struggle because they're not open. They're not honest. They operate from a fear state. They operate from people judging them. And you will not have any fear of anybody judging you if you're not judging yourself. We all have a past, all of us, but it doesn't exist right now. It only exists within us. You know, that way, it's like that way you used to look, that job you used to have that never really brought you that much money, that relationship that just brought you down, in a sense, stole your confidence, that investment you lost, that bankruptcy you had, the divorce you had. I had a few. It's how we look at situations and what emotion we want to apply to it that is going to determine what we feel. So I say kind of back it up, right? If I look at a situation in the past, that's only within me. But if I want to use it in a sense to serve me, I'm going to label an emotion to it that's going to serve me. You know, whether you went through a job loss, like I said, a bankruptcy, a divorce, however you label it, you label it a tragedy, you're going to have tragic emotions. If you label it as depressing, you're going to have depressive emotions. If you go inside and figure out what the lesson was and what you were supposed to learn, man, you can put a lot of labels on it that are going to serve you. You know, sometimes I really feel we need to look at where those insecurities come from, where the lack of trust comes from. And we need to do the introspection into ourselves to figure out what is triggering it. Because the event is the event. But that event is triggering me inside. If I look at someone and say, man, you know what, this, and this is a true story because it's been in my experience, man, this person right here can make me so jealous, but nobody else can. They're saying things different that resonate within me from my past that I'm still carrying in my present. You see it all the time. There was a story, And it's a true story. And it was a husband and wife. They were in the garage and they were both cleaning the car. He was wiping this end. She was wiping this end. And he said something to her in that moment, joking around, goofing around, and she snapped. He kind of backed up and was like, whoa, hey. And like she went off on him, calling him names. How can you say that to me? That was very disrespectful. After a period of about 2 hours, I think it was, she came back out and apologized. And he looked at her and he said, man, where'd that come from? And what she realized was in that moment, in that garage, what they were doing triggered her to a past childhood memory when she was with her father in the same kind of scenario where he berated her. He put her down all the time. He yelled at her all the time. And when the current husband said something, it triggered what she was carrying this whole time. I look at things like that and I think to myself, how many folks out there are carrying emotional baggage? How many people are carrying baggage from the past that only exists within them, but placing that on others around them in the present? How many are having childhood challenges inside of themselves from years ago, but never really brought it to the table to the parents sitting right across from them? I always question this to we don't have the conversations that matter. At work, they had contractors come in and do a I think it's crucial conversations course. I have the book right on the other side of this desk. But I'm like, how many times do you want to speak to your insecurities? Nobody does. Nobody ever wants to speak to what they're insecure about. They label it bad. They label it, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm good. I know what kind of person I am. We're not talking about the person you are. We're talking about what triggered you inside in this moment. That's where people don't want to do the work. And that's where I always get the passion from. Aren't you curious where those insecurities come from? Aren't you curious why you have a lack of trust? Aren't you curious if you're over it, you have no empathy? Are you not curious about that? When you really take a step back, take yourself outside of the box and look at the world, I think, how many people are walking around in one of the highest sophisticated machines on the planet? You're the highest being on the planet. And we don't even know how to drive it. We don't know how it works. We know physiology, but we don't know emotional intelligence. We don't know how to balance it. We don't know how they all tie together. And we have zero spirituality. We need to start changing that. We need to coexist, to co-create, to make awareness of these things. One of the biggest stigma when it comes to emotional underbalance, emotional overbalance, and on the level, emotional wellness. It's the same thing with mental. I could walk in the gym in January. It's packed. February, it dwindles down. March, it dwindles down. But here's the question. What are we focusing on? The physical. Walk into a library on January 2nd. How many people are there? How many people are exercising the mental, the emotional balance? You see, if you go see a therapist, society looks at you like there's something wrong. And then pharmaceuticals get pushed on you. Man, forget that. Start learning your inner being, all 4 cylinders. Realize spirituality, that we're all here and we're all connected because you're breathing the air I'm breathing, and I'm breathing the air you're breathing. We're all breathing the air that trees are exhaling. Our animals, with the one right next to me, is breathing the air I'm exhaling, and I'm breathing the air she's exhaling. How are we not all connected? Everybody say, oh, no, we're just sharing the air. Man, shut up. We're all connected. Start maintaining all 4 cylinders, all 4 bodies. Don't ignore it. Don't follow what generations before you did if it's not working for you. I had this conversation at work today, and person's around my age, and I'm sitting there talking to her, and it was like, if you look at some of the current generation, man, I got respect for them. I don't care what my generation says because I don't even believe in that stuff anyways. Generational, Gen X and stuff, whatever. But if you open your eyes to where we're at in this human experience, you have people that are walking away from jobs because they have no fulfillment emotionally, mentally. They don't feel achieved. They don't feel a sense of self-satisfaction, fulfillment. Man, you take that same concept, bring it back 30 years, and those folks in my generation are looking and saying, shut up and get your ass to work. Listen, we need to stop that. We need more mental awareness. It's not mental illness. We need more spiritual balance, not spiritual awakenings. We need more physical fitness, whether it's your body and your health. Start looking at those things. We need emotional balance. And the only way you're going to get emotional balance is if you start looking at emotional intelligence. You're not going to learn this in school. School's going to give you knowledge to apply it to a job. We need to start getting emotionally intelligent, understanding our emotions, processing our emotions, feeling our emotions, and of course, not being embarrassed about them. Everybody walks around so worried about judgment. And the ones that are going to judge you are the ones judging themselves. Start realizing that. Start breaking these generational curses, these conditions that you place on yourself, with which is placed from society. Stop doing that and start living for you. Start doing the experience for you, not what somebody else wants. Because if you want to keep operating with the same manual and script your parents keep giving you because their parents gave them and their parents' parents gave them, listen, it's not our parents' playground anymore. Shit, I look back at mine, women just started voting. Stop it. Start doing what works for you. If you see a pattern and you find yourself still emotionally unfulfilled, mentally off balance, physically weak, and zero spirituality, I'm going to say this. You want to look at the quality of your life. You ever want to gauge it? Check your current emotional status. What is it? Depressed, anxious, stressed, tired? That's the quality of your life, not the quality of the moment. Not because of your job. It's because your operating system inside. So let's quit copying off everybody else. Start learning ourselves. Start being ourselves. Start being true to yourselves. Start really sharing with the world who you truly are, not what somebody wants you to be or what you think they're going to like. Start approving of yourself and start loving yourself. That starts with maintaining all four cylinders: spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical. Guys, I love you so much. Everything I do is on my own time, my own dollar, my own editing, my own sharing, but I love it because I have so many folks that reach out, and for that, I really appreciate it. Everybody, the ones that have been following me from the beginning, the ones that support me, they send the messages throughout the day. They contact me through text. They're always supportive, always showing me quotes, sharing quotes, and really just out to better themselves in a human experience. So much love to you guys. Listen, just start being true to yourself. Don't deflect, don't defend, be true to yourself. It's going to take you to your higher self, your highest potential, and we could all release your potential. Guys, look out for us. We're going to be on the move. We're starting to make some major changes and some additions. So love you all. Stay safe. Be blessed. Keep being true to yourself.